who's been a member in a few various board of directors for various companies. But because the selection into these boards was so complex and he was invited there because of his achievements, we were able to qualify. Another great example, although probably it's not necessarily in the business field, but a very good qualifier would be becoming member of an Olympic team, because you have to go through so much competition, through so much work in order to get there, that would meet the criteria. But that's not necessarily the end of it. There's very many other criteria. Then having, for a businessman, we'd have salary, we'd have, like I mentioned, leading or critical roles. We might also have some sort of membership in the boards, in organizations. We might also have some sort of awards. We can also have, maybe you are judging somewhere, participating in, or invited into some sort of judging competition or part of a jury panel. Once I had this businessman being a part of, being invited to judge in the university contest for some sort of best business model, and that was really nice. At the same time, if you're a scientist, maybe you are reviewing the works of others in some sort of scientific scholarly journals as an editor, and that would qualify. Then, and there, slowly, we get to at least 3-4 categories with just hypothesizing how to look at them. Then for the arts, we're talking about also, it is also very approachable. For the arts, it could be having artistic exhibitions. Although Immigration Service sometimes has very, very narrow understanding of this criterion, applying it exclusively to visual arts. However, there is quite a bit of a trail of cases, non-precedent decisions though, in the Administrative Appeals Office, that find music to be part of the exhibitions criterion, and dancing and many other performing art fields, including into that criterion. So it is not a lost cause. With that, you could also be performing in a leading role. For example, if you're prima ballerina at the Bolshoi Theater, or at the Met, or maybe you're an opera singer at the Met, you could qualify. You could be, with that, you could be having high salary. And again, we could think about qualifying through a membership in an organization in your field. Maybe there's some sort of specific organization, or count on the selection process having to go through in order to get there. And maybe there's some sort of awards. Typically for artists, it's very common to have some sort of publications about them in major media, and that's also a very good criterion. Or maybe for models, it could be judging the work of others, participating in competitions as a judge, or part of a jury panel in beauty pageants. At the same time, a model could be a winner of a beauty pageant. Actually, I've worked with a few of those. It's been a very great honor for me. And then with winning a beauty pageant, if it's sort of a beauty pageant for, let's say, Miss America, that's obviously a major one. And here you would even probably try to classify as, you'd probably try to classify such an award under major awards first. But then me being a conservative attorney, and I think that would be the proper thinking that you wouldn't only classify under the major awards, but you also would have a backup plan and go through the 10 criteria, maybe find 3 other categories in order to do that. So that's roughly about the categories, and the categories narrow down to sports, education, arts, athletics, and business. So if any of your occupation is in this field, then and you've done something throughout your life, then it would be worth going through the criteria and analyzing if you qualify. Now, I often get a question about what if I have, I don't know, what if I have little bit for many criteria as opposed to a lot for one? I think the best approach would be here trying to get 3 criteria as strong as possible, slam dunk, and then the rest can be more wobbly than the others on one end. On the other end, when I file cases, I am comfortable filing cases with having probably 6 criteria, and this is just my own personal comfort zone. Of course, I've had cases with just 3, and I've had cases with 4. But when we're getting to sort of higher number area, then I have better sense of the case, because when we get an approval, we don't necessarily know which criterion worked for the officer. And the officers are not experts in our fields. They just use an algorithm how to evaluate it. When we're submitting scholarly scientific works, it's not like the officer is gonna read the work, but they would look at the publication, where it's published, what's the circulation of it, are you the author of it, how recognized it, and etc., etc. That would be the consideration that would the officer be taking in account when making such decisions. And of course, even though there could be 6 or more, I cannot, of course, guarantee, ethically, any attorney cannot personally guarantee, because we're not the ones making decision. But you can have a pretty decent sense by the time the packet is ready to go, how strong it is, how it's going to do, and sort of have a good sense of the case. Then the process consists of 2 steps generally. The first step is the petition that is filed with the Immigration Service. The second step is the either green card application or immigrant visa processing. If you're abroad, then most likely it will be immigrant visa processing at the embassy. Petition for based on extraordinary ability has an option of premium processing, which means it can be done in up to 15 days, and in that time you can either get an approval. Rarely there would be on that first step a denial, unless there was some sort of fatal, horrible mistake. But that would be something like a wrong box marked, or something that completely makes the petition processing and review close to impossible. So, but most likely what could happen, aside from approval, it probably would be a request for evidence. And if the request comes, then you're looking at what is needed from you, what the officer didn't understand, what criteria was accepted. It could be all, it could be none, it could be some, it could be requesting additional documents, and the officer typically specifies in the notice. And you're offered about 90 days total to prepare a response, and then with the 90 days, right now because of COVID, an additional 60-day extension is provided. So after that, the answer is returned, or maybe it was approved on the spot, then the petition goes to the embassy for processing. Right now, that's a little bit of a gamble. So, but the good news is that it looks like embassies around the world are starting to come back to normalcy, starting to open up, and hopefully it'll continue this way. Roughly turn around, and that would be generalization, probably around year and a half. So right now, people who were approved about a year ago or more for my cases, some more, are getting scheduled for their interviews, and based on employment-based category, and getting their interviews. Now, first preference employment-based category doesn't only have extraordinary ability. It has 2 other subcategories for researchers and for multinational managers. Researchers and scholars usually work with universities, and they do require petitioners. I'm not going to talk about them today. If necessary, we can have a separate discussion on them, but I would reserve it for now. And then multinational managers is a separate, enormous topic. I will touch just briefly on it right now, just to show you a distinction between the two. Multinational manager requires the company to be abroad in any country abroad that has a related country in the United States, and there's only special 4 types of relationship they can have. It could be parent, sister, subsidiary, or